The thing about bad news is it doesn't wait. It doesn't ease in or check if you're ready, it just crashes through the door and expects you to deal with it. My name is Grant. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a commercial fisherman out of Kodiak, Alaska. Been doing this job since I was 19, trawlers, salmon runs, crab pots. You name it, I've done it. Saltwater's in my veins more than blood at this point. The day started like any other. Got off the boat after a 5-day halibut trip, gear soaked, hands blistered, just ready to shower and get a hot meal. I had this weird stomach pain the week before, and the doc insisted I come in for a scope. I figured maybe an ulcer or something dumb like that. But when I walked into the clinic that afternoon, I saw the look on Dr. Kwan's face and knew it was worse. That heavy, careful way doctors talk when they're about to flip your whole life over. Early-stage colon cancer, she said, like it was a warning shot instead of a bullet. But we caught it early. I nodded like I understood what that meant. I didn't. I was just trying not to throw up right there in her office. On the way home, I called Sierra, my girlfriend of almost 4 years. We'd been through some ups and downs, but lately things had felt steady. We were saving for a new boat, a big deal for me. Meant I could finally run my own crew. 45 grand in a joint account, every penny earned from waking up before dawn and freezing my ass off on the water. Hey, babe, can you meet me at home? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. I'm at yoga, she said, flat like she didn't hear the shake in my voice. Can it wait? It couldn't, but I said, yeah, sure. When I got home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The mug she always left in the sink was gone. Her clothes were missing. A note? No, not even that. But what hit harder than her absence was what hit me when I opened the banking app. That sick, gut punch of a number, $137. 24 cents. The rest? Gone. Our whole damn savings, wiped out like a tide pulling out to sea. She'd left, and taken everything with her. I don't remember sitting on the dock, but somehow I ended up there, coffee in hand, watching the tide roll in under a sky that didn't care what had just happened. The water smelled the same. The wind still cut through my flannel the same. But I felt hollow. Old Jake, my neighbor across the bay, shuffled down from his weathered porch with his mutt, Lucy. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down beside me and lit a cigarette. After a while, he said, looks like you've seen the devil. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. He just nodded, like he knew what kind of pain could put a man on a dock at dusk with eyes that couldn't focus. We sat there in silence, 2 men and a dog and a hell of a lot of betrayal. Cancer was one thing that I could fight. But Sierra? That was a hit I didn't know how to recover from. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here. Not the cancer. I couldn't blame myself for that. But Sierra? That was harder to explain. Harder to stomach. We met 3 summers ago at a beach bonfire after a huge sockeye run. Everyone was celebrating a good season. Half-drunk guys throwing wood pallets onto the fire, music blasting off someone's old truck speakers, sparks flying into the sky like they had somewhere to be. She was standing by the driftwood logs, barefoot in the sand, holding a bottle of cider and laughing at something one of the deckhands said. I remember thinking she looked out of place, too polished, too clean. But then she smiled at me across the fire like she knew something I didn't. That's how it started. We were different from the jump. I smelled like fish most days and didn't care much for plans. She liked clean lines, routines, vision boards. But I liked her. She had this way of making you feel seen, like you mattered even when you weren't saying anything. That first winter, we bought a tiny blue house on the edge of the harbor. It had bad plumbing and warped floors, but we made it ours. Spent weekends patching drywall and arguing over paint colors. I was always covered in sawdust or grease. She'd be in yoga pants with her iPad, researching tile patterns. Her family wasn't thrilled. Rich folks from Oregon, her dad ran some tech firm, and her mom thought fish markets were quaint in a sad way. I remember her brother once asking me, dead serious, do you guys even have health insurance? Sierra laughed it off, but that stuff stuck with me. Over time, something in her changed. She started talking about San Diego. There's more opportunity there, she'd say, staring at Zillow listings. You could start a charter business, or work on conservation. I'd nod, but I never believed she meant it. Looking back, the cracks were there. The way she flinched when I came home smelling like diesel. How she'd roll her eyes when I talked about replacing the boat engine instead of taking a vacation. I thought love would cover it, that it would be enough. But love doesn't mean much when someone's got one foot out the door. She was gone before the cancer. That much was clear now. All the disease did was give her an excuse to run. And me? I was still here, on the same damn couch, in the same drafty house, trying to figure out if I'd been blind, or just stupid. Maybe both. The first round of chemo hit harder than I expected. The nausea didn't just come in waves, it was a damn riptide. The kind that grabs you under and doesn't let go. I spent most of that week hunched over the toilet or lying on the deck behind the house, staring at the sky like it had answers. Old Jake came by every other day, always with something in his hands. Chowder. A thermos of black coffee. One morning it was a wooden cross he whittled years ago. "Just in case you're into that sort of thing," he said, setting it on my porch railing. I wasn't, but I kept it anyway. On one particularly rough night, I woke up choking, stumbled outside, and threw up into a flower bed Sierra had planted the summer before. Purple hydrangeas, now wilted and browning at the edges. I sat there in the cold, shaking, tears I didn't even feel running down my face. That's when I finally called Dana, my sister. She picked up on the second ring. "Grant? What's wrong?" I couldn't get the words out at first. Just sat there holding the phone, breathing hard. Finally, I whispered, "I can't do this alone." "I'll be there tomorrow," she said. No hesitation. That's Dana. Always the strong one. She flew up from Juneau the next day with a duffel bag and a look that said she wasn't leaving anytime soon. First thing she did was clean out the fridge, which smelled like death. Then she made a list. Groceries. Appointments. Med schedules. When I told her about Sierra and the money, she stopped mid-chop. She was slicing carrots for soup. She took all of it? Her voice was calm, but her knuckles turned white around the knife handle. "Every cent," I said, not even recognizing my own voice. Dana didn't say anything right away. Just set the knife down and walked outside. She didn't come back in for 20 minutes. When she did, her eyes were dry, but I could tell something inside her had hardened. A couple days later, I dragged myself to the bank. Dana drove. I just sat in the passenger seat with a baseball cap pulled low over my eyes, trying not to puke. The woman at the desk, a young teller with bright red lipstick, pulled up the account history and clicked her tongue. "She made the withdrawal 4 days ago," she said, scrolling. "All in one transfer. No memo line." I blinked. That was before I even told her I had cancer. The teller's eyes flicked to mine. I didn't need her pity. I just nodded and stood up. Back in the truck, Dana didn't ask what the bank said. She already knew. Instead, she handed me a bottle of ginger ale and said, "She's not your problem anymore." I looked out the window as we pulled out of the lot. For the first time in days, I felt something other than grief. I felt mad. And under that, something sharper, like steel catching sunlight. Purpose. About a week after that bank visit, I called my cousin Rosa. Rosa's a paralegal down in Sitka, sharp as a razor and meaner than a wet cat when someone crosses her family. We hadn't talked in a while, but as soon as I told her what Sierra had done, she said, "Send me every document you've got. I'll handle the rest." Dana helped me gather everything, account records, old texts from Sierra, even photos of receipts we'd kept from the boat repairs. I emailed it all to Rosa that same night. Less than a day later, she called back. She didn't just take the money, Rosa said, voice tight. She funneled part of it to an account under her brother's name. "Derek?" I asked, already feeling the bile rise. "Yeah. Looks like she gifted him 10 grand right after draining the account. Probably to hide it from you in case you took legal action." I sat there in my kitchen, staring at the water-stained ceiling. This whole thing felt like a trap I hadn't seen coming until the jaws were already locked on my leg. "What can I do?" I asked her. "Well," Rosa said, "you've still got assets. Your permits, the cabin deed. We need to move fast." By the end of the week, we had set up a private trust, nothing fancy, just enough to legally transfer ownership of anything I wanted to keep safe. The fishing licenses. The coastal cabin my dad left me when he passed. Even my old skiff, which was technically still under my name even though it hadn't been in the water since July. Rosa walked me through every signature. This trust keeps your stuff off the table if she tries to come back with some legal stunt. Which, let's be real, she will. Dana chimed in from the kitchen. "I bet my truck she's already working with some sleazy lawyer." "Then we'll stay 2 steps ahead," Rosa said. We kept it quiet. No Facebook posts. No passive-aggressive messages. Nothing Sierra could twist into some emotional outburst to use against me. I just locked everything down and waited. That same week, I found an email from Sierra buried in my spam folder. Sent 3 days after she left. One line. "I'll always care about you, but I had to do what was right for me." No apology. No mention of the money. Just a vague, saccharine goodbye like she was leaving a yoga retreat, not a man going through chemo. Rosa laughed when I read it to her. "That's not a goodbye," she said. "That's someone making sure they don't look like the villain in court." We started documenting everything. Bank transfers. Texts. Voicemails. Even a voicemail from Derek that sounded like he was drunk and bragging about how smart Sierra was for getting out early. By the end of the month, we had a thick folder labeled Recovery Prep. I looked at it one night, sitting at the dining table with Dana dozing on the couch nearby. My hands were shaking, but not from chemo this time. From clarity. I wasn't just sick. I was stolen from. And now, I was done waiting. A couple weeks later, I started talking like I was ready to sell. It wasn't real. I wasn't about to give up my permits or the boat dreams I'd been building for years. But Rosa said we needed leverage, and this was how we'd get it. "Start spreading word," she said. "Let it slip that you're liquidating everything. So I did. Mentioned it at the co-op. Told a few of the older guys down at the docks that the cancer had wiped me out and I'd probably have to sell my licenses. Might throw in the skiff too, if I can get it running, I said to Kinney from the fuel station. Of course, in a town like ours, it only took 2 days for the gossip to do its job. Rosa got the call first. Some big-shot attorney from Anchorage, she said, smirking as she read the email out loud. He represents Sierra. Wants documentation of any sales before they move forward with equitable distribution. I stared at her, confused. She thinks she's entitled to half of what I sell? Bingo, Rosa said. She's making a claim like you two were married, even though you weren't. That's overreaching. So now we catch her in it? Oh, we already did. With Rosa's help, I compiled a response that looked polite but was packed with tripwires. We included a fake letter of intent from a buyer in Juneau for the permits, completely made up, and a list of assets I had supposedly valued for sale. None of it was signed, none of it official. Just enough to bait the hook. 3 days later, Sierra's attorney sent a formal demand for records and an accounting of the sale proceeds. The letter was full of legalese, but the message was clear. Sierra was staking a claim. That was exactly what we needed. It proved she wasn't just walking away. She wanted more. And now, with the demand letter, we had it on paper. Dana and I spent that night going through old messages again, pulling out everything she'd ever said about our money, how we'd buy the boat together, how our future was going to be built on that account. All of it bolstered the truth. She was after something she had no right to. Later, I stood on the porch with old Jake, sipping coffee as the wind cut in from the harbor. She's coming for it all, I said. Jake gave a low grunt. Then give her just enough rope to hang herself. I nodded slowly. The trap was set, and Sierra had just walked straight into it. The meeting was set for a Thursday morning in Anchorage, at a quiet downtown office with too much glass and too little warmth. Dana flew in with me, and Rosa met us at the door, already holding a thick binder and a travel mug that said, "Not today, Satan." I hadn't seen Sierra since she walked out. When she walked into that conference room, heels clicking, hair perfect, flanked by a man in a navy suit who probably billed $1,000 an hour, I barely recognized her. She didn't look surprised to see me, just bored, like this was a dentist appointment she had to get through. Her lawyer introduced himself, one of those smooth types with laminated business cards and a voice like a news anchor. He talked a lot, said words like partnership, shared investment, equitable expectations. I didn't say anything, just watched. When he finally paused to breathe, Rosa slid the binder across the table. "I think you'll want to take a look at these before we continue," she said, calm and sharp as a blade. Sierra glanced down, one manicured hand opening the cover. Her lawyer peered in. Inside, bank records, withdrawal timestamps, the wire transfer to Derek's account, Sierra's old text about our money, and the real kicker, a voicemail Rosa had cleaned up and transcribed from Derek, bragging about helping his sister. Stash it somewhere Grant can't find it. It got real quiet. Her lawyer flipped a few pages, his face tightening with each one. He leaned toward Sierra, whispering fast and low. She looked rattled for the first time, her hand dropping from the binder like it burned. Then he turned to us, clearing his throat. "Obviously, some new information has come to light," he said carefully. "My client was under the impression." Rosa cut him off. "Your client took money that didn't belong to her and tried to claim a share of future assets she had no legal tie to. We can litigate, but it won't go well for her." He opened his mouth again, but stopped when he saw I still hadn't said a word. I just stared at Sierra. She couldn't look at me. Instead, she pressed her lips together and whispered something to her attorney. He nodded, then said, "We'd like to propose a settlement." Rosa didn't smile. She didn't blink. She just said, "Put it in writing. Today." And that was it. No yelling. No fireworks. Just quiet proof and cold facts. Sierra left the room first, her heels slower this time. She didn't glance back. As soon as the door shut behind them, Rosa leaned over and patted the binder. "Nice and tidy." Dana gave me a look. "You okay?" I nodded. My mouth was dry, but my hands were steady. "I didn't need to win loud," I said, eyes still on the empty doorway. "Just needed to win clean." Old Jake's voice echoed in my head from that night on the porch. "Give her enough rope." Well, she did the rest. The settlement came through 2 weeks later. Sierra signed everything. No claims to the cabin, no share of the fishing licenses, and a formal agreement that the money she'd taken would be repaid through her family. I didn't care how. Rosa made sure every word of that document locked her out of my future for good. Her lawyer tried to soften the blow with vague language. "This allows both parties to move forward without further conflict." I just nodded. I'd already said everything I needed to say with my silence in that room. When the check arrived, restitution from Sierra's parents, who apparently wanted the whole mess buried, I deposited it without a second thought. No gloating. No messages. I didn't want an apology, and I wouldn't have believed it anyway. Dana stood with me at the bank, arms folded, watching the teller count the bills. Feels good, she said. It feels over, I said. And that was enough. We finalized the paperwork on the house a few days later. I had thought about staying, patching up the roof, repainting the trim. But every room held shadows, places Sierra had stood, laughed, lied. I didn't need that echo. So I listed it. Quietly. No fanfare. The day I packed the last box, old Jake walked up from his place carrying a thermos of coffee and a fresh pack of bait from my freezer. Didn't figure you'd leave this soon, he said, nodding at the for sale sign. I figured the tide's changing, I told him. He nodded like that made sense. You heading inland? Yeah, I said, thinking of someplace where you can hear birds in the morning instead of boat engines. He handed me the thermos. Then go find it. We shook hands, his grip dry and steady, and that was that. The chemo ended 2 days later. No celebration. Just a quiet nod from Dr. Kwan and a line on a chart that said I was done, for now. My hair was thinner, my energy spotty, but I was still standing. That was more than I could say 6 months ago. Back at the dock, I looked out at the tide one last time before loading up the truck. The wind was cold, but the kind of cold that woke you up. Made you feel clean. I didn't know where the road would take me yet. But for the first time in a long time, it was mine. No anchors. No shadows. Just the open road and the sound of gravel crunching under my tires as I drove away from everything that had nearly broken me, and toward whatever came next. 6 months later, I got the call. Your scans are clear, Dr. Kwan said over the phone, voice calm but warm. You're officially in remission. I sat on the porch of my new place, letting that sink in. The air smelled different here, cleaner, lighter. No salt, no diesel, no lingering trace of what I'd left behind. I was living in a small riverside town outside of Palmer now. Quiet place. Just enough folks to nod hello at the grocery store, not enough to ask what brought me here. I like that. The house I bought wasn't much, just a single-story fixer-upper with a tin roof and a view of the water. Not the ocean this time. A slow-moving river that caught the light just right in the early morning. I'd picked up a second-hand skiff, nothing fancy, but solid. Spent a couple weeks sanding the hull and replacing the motor myself. It wasn't for fishing charters or full-season hauls anymore. These days, I consulted, helping smaller operations with licensing, safety inspections, boat maintenance. Less wear on the body, more time to think. And I liked it. I had my own rhythm now. Wake up early. Brew coffee slow. Take the skiff out some days, just to drift and breathe. No one yelling across the deck. No deadlines tied to tides. I thought about Sierra less than I expected. She became something like static, always there if I tried to tune in, but never clear enough to hold. Then one evening, I checked my phone and saw it. A message from an unknown number, but I knew who it was before I even opened it. Sierra, I know I don't deserve a reply, but I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you're okay. Then another, a minute later. Sierra, I still think about you. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. Then I typed one line. Me. Still standing. Wish you well. And I blocked the number. No big moment. No emotional unraveling. Just a clean break. One that should have happened a long time ago. The next morning, I took the skiff out before sunrise. The river was quiet, steam rising off the surface like a secret. I cut the engine halfway down and just let the current carry me. I watched the trees go by. Birds darted overhead. Somewhere behind me, the town was waking up, coffee brewing, screen doors creaking open. But I didn't think about any of that. I thought about the stillness, the quiet, the fact that I had been dragged through hell and somehow came out whole on the other side. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something was missing. I felt like I had everything I needed. Just me, a river, and the road ahead.